Can you hear me? Good. Of course, I've just said welcome Adil, and it's actually Raja, I should have said. So I apologise immediately for that. And I think we have got some slides that will come up, because I think really it's probably kind of secret how big your business is, Raja. I just wondered if you could touch on the numbers that have gone into your business, how many sites you've got, and the brands you work with.
So we're a family business started in 1969 by my father. Currently, we have 174 locations nationwide. We employ 5,500 people, and our turnover is 184 million. And we like to stay under the radar, so I'm not sure what I'm doing sitting here.
You actually asked to come and...
Well, very kind of you to have me.
Yeah, exactly. Firstly, going back, I think, you said first it was a Wimpy, wasn't it? I think was the first site.
My father started our first Wimpy in 1969 on Cricklewood Broadway, and followed up by another one in Wembley. We still own that site in Cricklewood.
Fantastic. And then it became a Burger King, is that right?
That's right. It still trades as a Burger King to this very day.
Fantastic. And firstly, why did I suppose this should be a question for your father, but I'm going to ask you, why franchising? Why the burger market, and why franchising?
At the time, actually, it wasn't a burger market. My father was a bus driver, and during his breaks, he would pop into a Wimpy bar on Cricklewood Broadway, and he managed to struck up a relationship with the chap who was retiring, and the rest is history. He ended up acquiring that site as a Wimpy bar, and then subsequently from there, Wimpy got acquired by Burger King.
Wow, so bus driver turned Wimpy franchisee. And was there a moment when the business thought, actually, we're onto something here?
I think my father realised very quickly that good value food at an affordable price, served consistently, was the way forward. And at the time, McDonald's hadn't actually opened in the UK, and effectively Wimpy was a very successful brand that was quasi-fast food. And he very quickly realised he could roll out and grow the business.
So I just want to focus on that first brand that you took on, which was obviously Wimpy, then hence Burger King. How's that journey been? Because I suppose that's the basis of the whole business, the fact that Burger King was successful and you were a successful franchisee.
I mean, it sounds crazy now, but the transition from Wimpy to Burger King was a massive deal for us. We thought having a counter service business where people would come up to the counter, there was no more taking orders at the table, was revolutionary, and actually it was. From that point onwards, we really realised that we could scale the business, and as long as we had the ability to build good teams and surround ourselves with good people, we could grow.
I want to fast forward to, I think we're 1990 now, and you spend, I think you acquired, is it 0.6 acre plot of land? Is that right? Am I fair to say?
It was a piece of land in Milton Keynes. I was studying I was training as a lawyer in law school in York, and I can remember my dad asking me to come down from York to see this site in Milton Keynes. And my dad was very inclusive. He wanted me to, he wanted to understand my opinion. And we paced up and down this 0.6 of an acre site thinking, are we going to go bankrupt? Should we actually buy this piece of land to build our first drive-through? And it was the weight of the world on our shoulders. And I said to my dad, I think we should go for it and we should do it. And that's exactly what we did.
I was going to say, that seems to me a bit of a turning point in terms of strategy for the business, in terms of, looking at taking on, investing in the freehold rather than just investing in the franchise, so to speak. Is that where the kind of strategy, your freehold strategy started?
I think the freehold strategy really was day one. We came from an immigrant background, and I think with that immigrant background, there's sometimes a little bit of insecurity, and the thinking was if we own a few properties and bricks and mortar, we'll be less likely to be told to go back to where we came from.
Okay, I like the reasoning. I was just asked because obviously Burger King, you stayed with Burger King, I think it was another 11 years, am I right? It's Burger King, and then I'm trying to think because there's a bit about, I was doing something about the outbreak of foot and mouth and how that played a role in, again, the business kind of changing or expanding to a different brand.
Well, we're still Burger King franchisees, and it's a fantastic brand. We had the outbreak of BSE in foot and mouth, and those of you that can remember it, it had 2 weeks of massive, intense coverage in the UK. It was the vision of this cow trying to get up and then being unable to get up. And overnight, we saw 60% of our business just evaporate. People just stopped eating hamburgers, and we thought, well, we've got a problem here. Luckily, at the time, we owned a large number of our freeholds, and we were able to stop charging ourselves rent, which meant we survived. Many of our colleagues and other franchisees, unfortunately, didn't. And that really was the turning point for us deciding that having all our eggs in one basket is probably not the smartest thing to do. So we very quickly embarked upon a diversification strategy and trying to work out which brand or brands have the same culture that we're looking for and where we could apply our skill sets to seek growth.
And was it a challenge coming from one brand to two brand, as in the teams, or was it? Did it feel seamless at the time?
It was a challenge in the sense that the cooking platform was very different, but the key QSR principles of building teams, get the right support, understanding how to grow sales, that was something we knew fairly well. We've been hands-on operators from day one. We started with one restaurant, so that part was easy. The harder part was just getting up to speed with the different cook platforms, which we kind of accomplished quite quickly, I think.
And in terms of KFC, if I kind of go more into the future now, in current day, what's the competition like at KFC at the moment in terms of the other chicken-led? Because we're looking at Popeyes is coming up, and it's very small at the moment, but it seems to be opening a lot of sites. I think it was 4 in the last week, I think I read. And you've got also the smaller versions coming through. What's that? Chick-fil-A looking to come and open here. What's the competition like being a KFC franchisee?
I mean, I personally think competition is healthy, and I think we, as at KFC, have had many years where there weren't that many credible mainstream QSR brands. I think Popeyes, Chick-fil-A will definitely make a repeat. There's Wingstop. There's lots of good brands who are emerging, but I think if you're good at what you do, and I think KFC does that very well, then it gives us more of a reason to delight our customers and do a better job, and that's what we're working hard to do.
Not resting on burger and chicken. 2007, you get selected by Whitbread to be one of their Costa coffee franchisees. Why did you decide again to take on another brand? And 2, how's that relationship grown?
All of the brands that we operate, first and foremost, I've been consumers of, so I genuinely think Costa is a great coffee brand and actually has an authentic history. Coffee's been very good to us. We wanted to go into something where the dwell times were longer. It was a different clientele, different type of staff that we needed to retain and hire. And it's been not without its challenges. Coffee's a very competitive market, but it's a great brand. And I think the business now is recovering and profitability levels are increasing.
So you've got 3 brands already under the umbrella. When do you start thinking we could probably got the capacity to take on a 4th?
We've got a 4th already because we've got Taco Bell as well.
I was just going to come on to that one, but I'm just thinking, when do you think these 3 are all running really well? Do you get to a certain size, or do you just think actually we've got the capacity to actually do another brand?
For us, it's never actually been about size. It's been more about the DNA of what is the right brand that fits well with us. We try and shy away from brands that require chefs and independent menus and marketing. And for us, when the opportunity for Taco Bell appeared, we were quite excited about it. And worldwide, the brand does very well. We wanted to stick very closely within the QSR market, and Taco Bell's DNA, I think, aligned with us quite well.
How's that relationship gone? Is that the second Yum brand for you guys?
It's the second Yum brand for us. It's challenging at times because it's a new brand. It's not as mature in the UK as KFC is, but I think over a period of time, we've got big aspirations for growth, and I think the brand is unique in terms of what we offer, the price point. All of the brands that we operate have one key thing, which is a strong DNA, and they represent great value, and I think Taco Bell certainly does that.
And in terms of being a multi-brand franchisee, I actually asked you what are the challenges of being a multi-brand franchisee, but actually I suppose what are the positives? Because I suppose you can dial up and dial down in terms of, like you say, if there's something wrong on the burger market, you can dial up KFC or a Taco Bell. Is that more the opportunities you see rather than the challenges?
I think that's right. We operate a diverse platform. We've got the ability to offer senior management, lots of exciting promotions and roles. We try and promote within, and we can showcase great career trajectories for people who want to embark on a career with us in hospitality. And we're very much a family business. I'm the second generation. My sons are sat there. They'll be the third. And we've resisted the temptations of private equity involvement. And the future looks very exciting.
And how do you maintain standards across a wide and varied estate? But I suppose, is there a competitive nature between the teams in different brands? And do you fuel that?
I wouldn't say we fuel the competition between the different brands. What we do is if we see learnings or trading platforms or coaching or training that works particularly well in one brand, we share that with the brands that we work with, and most of the time they're very welcoming and very open to new ideas, new formats, and that seems to have worked quite well for us.
And in terms of property, how do you select the property for each brand, and how do you avoid cannibalizing sales?
That's the million-dollar question.
I should have saved it till the end, sorry.
No, not at all. A lot of the brands we work with have fairly sophisticated modelling tools which will tell you the acorn groups, the number of cars that go past a location, the number of house owners, the renters. You can even see heat maps which will show how busy a location is, and actually how over a 24-hour period you can actually see people moving. And it's been a real eye-opener because historically as a retailer you would go for the pitch with the highest footfall. However, very often those pitches will die after 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, whereas you could have a secondary location which is not prime pitch, but over a 12-hour cycle you'll actually have more people coming into your store than a prime pitch. So we're very, very careful in the sites we select. We have a team that will assess them. I'll visit every single one of those sites, and we still have the old-fashioned walk it, feel it, touch it, pace it. It's still very old school.
Do you have any co-located sites?
We have a number of co-located sites because our evolution from being restaurateurs and opening businesses has evolved, where we've now transitioned into buying retail and leisure parks where we can own the freeholds from where we trade, as well as have other tenant mix.
Do you have a favourite brand?
I probably do, being honest, and I think it's the team at KFC currently. I think it's led by incredibly talented people, and the results show.
And how is the relationship with the brand partners maintained? Because obviously we talked about Yum, but obviously there's Whitbread in there as well, and you've got Restaurant International brand, isn't it, or Brand International. So what's the relationship with those? I mean, I take it if you're all doing the numbers, they leave you alone?
Well, it's probably more if we're doing the numbers, we leave them alone. We try and hold them accountable where we need to. It's fair to say a lot of the relationships are governed top down. I'm the CEO of the Adil Group, and I try and portray a professional image and build up relationships with all of the brands, but equally we're dependent on the CEOs of those brands having the ability to also garnish relationships and communicate and work with us. We're a family business. We have a strong culture in our business, And I think we expect the same from the brands that we work with.
We've talked about, obviously, your business, but let's talk about the wider market, especially the UK franchise market, which I would argue is going through quite a time of significant evolution. There seems to be, you read Propel, there's probably 2 or 3 people a day saying they're going to franchise and do this many sites. Where do you see the current market, and how do you see this playing out? Because it does seem a bit of like the traditional brands, and you've got people going, we don't want the traditional brands anymore, we want some of the newbies.
I've never known a market as being as competitive as the UK. People tend to forget that we're actually an island surrounded by water, and there's only so many locations and so many brands. I think I've seen lots of new brands enter the market and leave. The best brands who survive are the brands that are honest, represent good value and have a strong DNA. And we're very selective in the brands that we want to partner and work with. What we look for is honesty, good value, reliability, and longevity. And a lot of the new brands that we see, it's a scrabble to find sites and quick growth with private equity money. But 10 years down the line, I'm not sure how many of them are going to be around.
And are you looking to add to your brand portfolio?
We're always looking at new opportunities, and thankfully we get approached by lots of brands. It's just making sure that we partner with the right brand and equally don't spread ourselves too thin. What we found is having Chinese walls on certain brands and not stretching our management and our exec team too much really pays dividends.
And who do you admire? Talk about looking at other brands. Who's out there and you're thinking, actually, that's someone who's doing it right?
I'd say the 2 favourite brands that I really admire are Greggs and probably Nando's. I think both these 2 brands are honest, represent great value, and are just entirely consistent.
Fantastic. I think we have got some questions, so I'm just going to leave you for 2 seconds and jump down.
Not at all.
What we got here? Can you see a place for a plant-based QSR concept in your portfolio that would deliver sufficient revenue?
That's a difficult one. I see plant-based growing in the UK. I think it's very selective and probably would work in certain locations. At the moment, when we try plant-based products, we never exceed the threshold of about 3%, and that's on a good day.
I was going to say, I forgot to touch on, I think it touches on one of the slides. Actually, your portfolio is actually more diversified than we've mentioned. Obviously, hotels, and I think fitness as well. How important are the hotels and the fitness in terms of diversifying your portfolio?
Very, because we like to give our guests a good night's sleep, fatten them up in our establishments, and then they can go to the gym and have a workout.
So I wait for the Uber franchise coming as well to get them from A to B.
Watch this space.
Fantastic. Ever thought about going it alone and creating your own brand and concept?
Thought about it many times, realised very quickly that we would be hopeless at it. We know what our skill sets are. I think when we partner with a strong brand, with a strong DNA, with a strong operating platform, we can execute very, very well. What we're not good at is the bits that involve building a brand, creating menus, sourcing ingredients, doing supply chain. I'm always full of admiration for people who build brands.
I was going to say, and something I didn't ask you about the property players, what's the ratio in terms of high street sites and actually drive-throughs? Because it seems to me drive-throughs is, again, we talk about the franchise market having a massive evolution. It seems to be everyone is jumping into the drive-through market at the moment.
There's certainly a big demand for drive-through, and that market has grown. We traded particularly well from those assets during COVID, and a lot of the new entrants who are entering the UK are looking for drive-throughs. We've been very lucky where we've been able to buy the land and build the drive-throughs, and our mix is about 40% drive-through now.
I take it the good thing is you've already got the relationships with those developers, with the landlords who are looking to do drive-throughs, and the new people coming in still have to build up those relationships.
That's right. We're fairly well known in the UK, and what we very often will do is try and buy the land and actually build them ourselves. So we'll go through the entire process of OpCo and PropCo.
Fantastic. You've talked about actually being in the UK and international. Would you consider international expansion in the near future?
We would consider it. I think that would probably be something for the next generation, the third generation of the Adils to look at. But I'm quite happy concentrating in the UK.
No pressure there, boys. No pressure at all. I was going to say, actually, has the brands come to you and say, look, do you want to take on more of us? I know KFC went through a refranchise a few years ago. Has there ever been a discussion where, would you like to take more on?
I mean, the brands we work with are very inclusive. We've had opportunities to grow in France, to grow in Canada, to grow in America, but growth is good as long as you can manage it. And the key for us is to make sure we don't spread ourselves too thin.
It's a classic KFC question coming your way here, Roger. How did your KFC outlets deal with running out of chicken in 2018? I don't want to bring back any bad memories, by the way.
The honest answer is it was the biggest disaster I can remember in my career. The marketing during the process, both pre and post, was phenomenal. And I think even good brands who get things wrong, I think if you're honest, the consumers can be really quite forgiving. It's when you try and pull the wool over their eyes that you have a bigger problem.
Yeah, the marketing was fantastic around there, wasn't it? So, very short question. Why not pizza?
Good question, and that would be an obvious fit for us. It's a great sharing occasion. And again, we have over the years looked at different pizza brands. The market leader, which is Domino's, I think is a fairly saturated market, and there aren't too many close second or thirds at the moment.
No, there isn't. There's a gap. There isn't a huge gap. What policy change, if any, would you ask an incoming government to make?
I think VAT we could speak about, all day long, is a big issue for us. I think we are a large employer of minimum wage employees. And I think any forthcoming government needs to understand that job creation and wages go hand in hand. And if you try and legislate and you over-legislate, what it does is it deters growth and it deters people from more jobs.
Fantastic. Couple more questions before I come back on stage. Do you think the traditional hamburger QSR model has a future with Gen Z and the next generations?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Do you think the traditional burger QSR model is does it still appeal to Generation Z and the new generations coming through?
I heard somebody talk earlier about training and the focus and culture. I think the answer is yes, it does have a future, but I think we as leaders, our teams, our managers need to evolve our style to make sure we offer the flexibility and a career path that's going to encourage the future generation of people to come and want to work for us. I think the days of having static rotas and dictating things are long gone. It's the other way around. We kind of find out from our employees what they want, and we try and cater a working environment and a rota that works with their lifestyle.
Fantastic. I'm just going to move around to read the top one. What would be the one change you would make if you could to each of your main brand franchise contracts, except for a royalty cut?
Oh, that's a good question. One
of them must be in the room, I imagine.
One of the brands we work with has an archaic system of a 20-year franchise agreement. Most franchisees now can't expose themselves to a commitment of 20 years. I think 10 years is probably a decent period by which you know whether the business is working or not. I do think there will be a change in the franchise models. Some of the brands we work with who are a bit more entrepreneurial and smarter are realizing that if a franchisee can't make money, what is the right mechanism of royalty and marketing? Because if they don't adjust, then what they'll have is more store closures and failures. So sometimes it's better to have a little bit less income, but allow the franchisee to make a profit.
Yeah, and then you'll be left with the liability, as you're seeing with Papa John's, isn't it, having to take them back as company owned?
Absolutely. Some of the brands we work with are very engaged you can have sensible commercial decisions, and we try and work with them to engineer solutions. But others who are set in their ways will really lose out on growth, and there'll be more store closures.
I was going to come back up. There's about 3 or 4 questions appeared since then. Which brand generates the highest margin, both cash and percentage?
It's actually our Burger King business, where we've been able to have a bit more flexibility on the price. In terms of unit volumes and turnover per site, it's our KFC business.
And how are you managing the sort of the margin pressure that the whole of the sector is in at the moment, or under, I should say?
It's been quite a difficult time across the board. We had a variable utilities contract, and with the outbreak of the Ukraine war, we ended up paying. We went from 11p a kilowatt to 78p a kilowatt. So our electric and gas bills quadrupled overnight. We've had food cost inflation. We've had minimum wage increases. It's been quite hard because there is a finite price that our consumers are prepared to pay for a cup of coffee, a burger, a piece of chicken, and you can't pass on those increases to the customer. But we are thankfully seeing some of that come back. We've had great success with technology. We've upgraded a lot of our restaurants. We've added kiosks, and we're seeing a good amount of growth via ticket, but unfortunately we're still seeing transactional decline.
I say, what kind of percentage or role does delivery play in the business?
I was listening to the lady from Mowgli who was up on the stage, and I think she's very brave and very wise not to go down the delivery path. And if I could have my way again, we'd do the same. In some of our locations, our profit degradation is directly linked to the delivery growth, and we're seeing delivery now in some locations as much as 40%, which is really crippling in terms of the profit degradation.
Are you across all 3 aggregators?
Where we can be, yeah.
I'll come back up now. A couple of questions, final questions to ask you. We haven't really asked about what the group's going to be doing in the next 12 months. Do you have how many you hope to roll out over the next 12 months?
We've got some growth opportunities of sites that we'll be opening in the next 12 months. We're really focusing on working through managing our existing business and trying to eke out some value and trying to improve our overheads. I was listening to the gentleman before, and we're doing the exact same exercise by looking at our overheads and seeing how can we be more efficient, what can we cross-utilize. And the advantage of getting bigger is you should be able to secure some savings just in terms of volume.
And in terms of numbers, do you look at how many you think you can open this year, and do you do it by brand? You actually, is it 5 Burger Kings, 2 KFCs, or do you not work like that? It's just the opportunity that comes along.
I think it's a combination of both. We will normally have a pipeline that we've built up over 5 or 6 years, and we'll work through which ones we want to build out and open. But we don't get too hung up on how many units. Over the years, I've seen a lot of people and companies get into problems where they're so growth hungry, they end up opening compromised sites. We're more fixated about how good is the location, how well will it trade, and actually are we going to service demand that is there at the moment.
Fantastic. Can you please thank Raja for joining us today? Thank you.
Thank you very much.